We are the keepers of the flame, the sacred order. Let the ceremony begin. And today, faithful acolytes, we take a look at this. And what this is Sweet Baby Ray's hot sauce. Now, of course, we see Sweet Baby Ray's everything. There's barbecue sauces and wing sauce and concoctions with mayo and all kinds of stuff. But I remember when this was first coming on the scene, and it was a barbecue sauce. I didn't actually see the hot sauce till a lot later. And I thought the barbecue sauce was alright. I don't know if this is a barbecue joint that is kind of leaping out into the greater world or what's happening, but I know that this is definitely a large-scale chain at this point. I don't know if they were bought by somebody else and that's what happened. Don't really know the backstory here. But what we have here is we have some aged cayenne peppers, distilled vinegar, water, salt, xanthan gum, and dried garlic. The dried garlic is clearly, as you can see, a powder here. And this is just going to be a straight hot sauce. That's all they're calling it. Now, my interest was in cayenne peppers, of course, and I like to have a Louisiana sauce on hand. I don't right this second. This is as close as I have. And you can see there's a little bit of creaminess going on here. It's emulsified a little bit. It is not just the straight, I mean, it's very, 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 very runny, but it's not the straight liquid, sort of watery stuff that you see with Louisiana sauces. It is maybe a little bit closer to a Cajun in terms of consistency, but flavor-wise, the thing that I actually kind of admire about this is that the garlic is, you can see there's less than 2% of xanthan gum in this, and then garlic is listed afterwards, which means that there is very, very little garlic in here. So it doesn't really intrude. So I would say this is actually closer to Louisiana style than a Cajun style, if I had to quantify them a bit. So, and this is, you can see it's a pretty 12-ounce bottle, and I think it's like $1 or $2. For what this is going for. And we have a restrictor cap right here with the hole actually built into the cap and with the flip top as well. This is a pretty clever design. I like this. I like this a little bit better, I think, than the inserts. And the thing with this is that it actually, you can see, does a very good job restricting. You are not looking, and honestly, I'm not sure if this sauce is thin enough to really demand this. You can see it is. It does flow very nicely. We have this sort of pale. It's maybe a mid-orange. It's certainly not the red that we would expect to see. So to me, this is definitely some emulsifier action going on here. You can see it's not super, super runny. And you'll see that a little bit more when I get to the food section of this video as well. So without further ado, let's get to the testing. So, this reads actually more as a buffalo style, where you have that little bit of creaminess that always seems to go with that style. You could even say it's a little bit closer to a wing sauce possibly than an actual hot sauce. It does not have that bracing punch in the throat that you would typically get from a Louisiana style or even a Cajun style from the vinegar. Some nice embossing here, Sweet Baby Ray's on the bottle. I just noticed that. So, heat, of course, with these is typically fairly mild. And this, I think, is going to be, it goes great on wings. They're really trying to make a very flexible all-around table sauce. And I think that's commendable because I think this is actually a really good introduction to hot sauce. So people who don't know if they like hot sauce, if they don't like Louisiana style, this is a good one to get because it is, I mean, the flavor is pretty good. I personally would think that there's better out there, and I think that was reflected a bit in the review. But as a the first rung of the ladder, I think it actually works pretty well in that context. But they're definitely adding creaminess. They're saying add to mayo, marinades, ketchup. You can, I guess. I wouldn't put this on tacos. They list tacos there. I think that would be vile. But it is smooth enough where you theoretically could. Definitely stuff like ramen, it'll work pretty well on because it isn't quite as abrasive. So you do have a nice bit of blending in, I think. But it's okay. Flavor wise, it's okay. Heat wise, it's also okay. I prefer a little bit more of the bracing astringency of something like Irazu's cayenne, which is I think probably still my favorite current cayenne, Louisiana style at the moment. But in this one too, it makes me feel like it really belongs elsewhere. It doesn't belong where I like to use Louisiana styles all the time. But again, they do cover a very, very broad spectrum with that bit of smoothness to it. All right, so what I've got here is it's I don't even know what to call this. I don't know if this even has a name, but we basically have here some pasta, looks like some rotini, some peas. Looks like there is some mashed cauliflower in here, some chicken with some breadcrumbs on top. So I guess a chicken casserole of some sort. It is in a cream sauce as well. So I find it honestly a touch bland for me. And I also don't like things that are heavy, heavy cream. I find them too rich. Just my own palate. So you can see this sauce is actually a fair amount of work. And I don't know that the restrictor cap makes a total amount of sense here, but all right, let's start with that. But you can see there's 12 ounces for a buck or two. I mean, you can do really, really well with this. And this, like I said, does serve as a fantastic entry point, even into wing sauces, buffalo sauces, stuff like that. So here's kind of what we're dealing with. And let's just get into it here. This sauce more wants to meld than to cut through stuff. And really, I think more than anything, this is a flavor component. There's very, very, very little heat here. There are some flavored breadcrumbs. It's like an Italian flavoring, I want to say, which isn't meshing well with the sauce. And the creaminess of the cauliflower is overpowering the sauce, to be honest. So, kind of one of the drawbacks of a sauce that wants to meld with things instead of providing a strong counterpunch. Oops. Took my eyes off the road there a minute. So, this is not a bad sauce. It is definitely a commercial, big label sauce, though. Definitely is that, and so there is, for being what it is, it's fine. Like, I'm not unhappy I spent a couple bucks on this. It's a fine sauce in that regard for what it actually is. There's just a lot of better stuff out there. This is kind of like I don't know, call it like your Miller Lite or something along those lines. It reminds me actually of kind of what Frank's Red Hot is, where you have something that is just really marketing and a name at a certain point, and you have honestly somewhat of an average sauce. Like this one is not. It's not going to fool it's not going to fool anyone into thinking that it's right at the top of the market, and it's not. Not in flavor, definitely not in heat. But for something that costs a couple dollars for 12 ounces, I don't know that you really go wrong either. Because sometimes you really don't want to. Sometimes you just want something comfortable and reliable, and you don't want to necessarily be chasing whatever the hot pepper of the month is. You don't necessarily want to be challenging a lot of your, the heat receptors in your mouth, some of your TBR points and whatnot. So a lot of times you just want something that will add just a little bit to kick something over, especially if you're like me and you're after flavor as your primary concern. And so this one I think is honestly, I would call this a good enough sauce where it's worth keeping on hand because, what the hell, it's only a couple bucks. But it is not, for me, any kind of a go-to or anything like that. But still, I think if you're going to have a cheap mass market table sauce, you could certainly do worse than this one. Sweet Baby Ray's hot sauce. Now go forth in peace to serve the flame.